Good evening and welcome to Ought UK Presents It's OK Not to Be OK, an in-depth conversation between author Esther Marshall and broadcaster Claudia Winkleman. My name is Dan Rickman and I'm the CEO of education charity Ought UK. This evening is the highlight of our 6-week campaign to raise £50,000 to gift 7,000 books to children in Jewish primary schools both here in the UK and across the Ought Global Network. This year marks the 100-year anniversary of Ought UK, and before we go any further, I'd like to ask you all to watch this very short video clip which celebrates the impact through education that our organisation has made over the last 100 years.
Since its foundation in 1880, World Ought has been transforming lives through training and education. From focusing on teaching 19th century Russian Jews essential trades and professions, we have evolved to provide 21st century skills to empower people and strengthen communities. Thanks to the support of British donors, Ought UK has been able to support the work and schools of World Ought, as well as running our own projects here in the UK for over 100 years. Our work crosses borders and generations, offering support from rehabilitation programmes through to professional networking. We train and mentor 21st century skills, but our name speaks of our Russian origins. Ought is an acronym that when translated means the Society of Trades and Agricultural Labour. World Ought schools specialise in STEM education: science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Many of the young people in our schools have had challenging childhoods and have critical needs. At our Kafar Silver School in Israel, over 90% come from single-parent families or are orphaned. Many have been excluded from previous schools and need emotional support and pastoral care. The programme gives them confidence, life skills and hope. Ought UK was founded in 1921 by Russian immigrants who began to fundraise for World Ought's international projects, teaching skilled trades to Jewish communities trapped in poverty. Ought UK was a pioneer in the fundraising world, raising millions through their business breakfast, ladies' literary lunch and their flagship annual gala dinner. But Ought UK has been an independent, active force too. We helped students leave Berlin during the rise of Hitler and supported Holocaust survivors through vocational skills training at a temporary Ought school in Leeds. And Ought UK continues to play an active role in the British education system. Our JUMP programme helps young people realise their potential. It matches secondary school students with professional mentors from different industry sectors. JUMP provide routes into further education, apprenticeships and the job market. But we don't just help the individual. We want to develop critical thinkers and problem solvers, people who can build positive futures for our communities and for the wider world. Ought UK has been helping to change lives for over 100 years. We were there then and are still here now, building positive futures for our communities and for the wider world.
When Annette Cura became chair of Ought UK earlier this year, she challenged me to think creatively as to how we could help address the needs of our students as they face the challenges of the pandemic. Like all of us, young people have been faced with confusion, uncertainties, and in some cases, even the loss of loved ones. And their mental health will almost certainly have been impacted. I've been fortunate to know Esther Marshall since we were teenagers, when we were both leaders in the youth movement BBYO. Even back then, her ambitious nature was so evident, and I watched from afar as she went on to hold positions of leadership through university before climbing the corporate ladder at Unilever. I was totally devastated last year when I learned of her sister's tragic death by reading the powerful post Esther was brave enough to share on social media. I saw the opportunity for synergies between Esther's work with children through her powerful storybooks and the work of Ought UK, and I was delighted when she agreed to be the spokesperson for our new campaign. I asked Esther if she could be interviewed by absolutely anyone, who would she choose? I don't think either of us believe for a second that her first choice broadcaster, Claudia Winkleman, would agree to be part of our campaign. But here we are. I want to take this opportunity to extend a huge thank you to our wonderful partners, Pages, PJ Library, Beyond and the Jewish News. Collectively, their incredible work within the education and mental health spaces have hugely benefited our community, and their support on this campaign has been invaluable. To find out more about their wonderful work, please make sure you click the links on this page. Without any further delay, it is my absolute honour to pass over to Claudia and Esther for what I know will be a fascinating and insightful conversation.
Esther, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you.
Your books are wonderful.
Thank
I've
you.
read them all. You can test me. You can say page 12. What happens? What's in the corner? Why did you decide to write children's books?
Yeah, I never really thought I'd end up as a children's author, for instance, but I basically had my son 2.5 years ago, and I don't know about you when you had children, but kind of your life changes. You look at things differently.
Totally.
And I'd been doing kind of diversity and inclusion as my day-to-day job, and I suddenly was taking him to classes and looking around and thinking, my gosh, so many of these children aren't represented in books, and if they can't see that when they're younger, what are we doing all this diversity inclusion stuff like for people who are now at work, when the biggest thing we can do is look after them and nurture them when they're young. And so I got quite angry about it, like how are we expecting our children to achieve and fulfill their potential if they can't see themselves and see other people that look like them. I was talking to my sister about it, and she was also angry about it, and she said, well, look, you're on maternity leave and you like your brain to be going. You're now kind of, I mean, it's very nice looking after my child, but your brain goes to mush a little bit. She said, well, why don't you write the book that you want to read to him? One about the fact that, mummy does just as much as daddy, and that he'll meet other women that don't necessarily look like him, but learn from them and how much it can enhance your life. And so I did. He was a really, really bad sleeper. So he was up like 6 or 7 times a night for a good 7-8 months. So I was like, well, if I try and look at things in a positive light rather than I'm exhausted, I've technically been given the gift of time. Who gets that? We're always saying we're struggling with time. So I would feed him whilst having my phone down the side and write basically whatever would come to me. And that's where the first book came from. Sophie Says I Can, I Will. All about basically you can achieve your dreams regardless of who you are, your gender, your race, your religion, your background. Yeah.
But I'm so impressed because it's such a leap from going, yeah, I've got this tiny baby, there isn't anything out there, to actually getting it published is quite something. Once you started the process, like you say, whether you were feeding in the middle of the night, did it just flow?
Yeah, I think especially when you're that exhausted,
yeah,
things just came to me. I was in a kind of creative headspace that I'd never really understood before, because I'd always just been so focused and so busy, and then suddenly you're just so exhausted and not busy that your mind can go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took me about, I made it take a month because I was like, come on, I need something to do.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize was the whole process around getting it published and everything, and printing and all the illustrations and everything would take so long. So actually it kind of helped. It was my maternity leave project.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. Yeah, it just flowed.
And your publisher, did they go, oh yes, of course, you're right? Did you find that bit? Anybody who's watching going, I've got an idea for a kid's book. Were they open to new ideas?
No, I self-published the books at first because I was like, I want them to be my characters, how I like it. I'd spoken to a lot of the different communities of people who were represented, and it felt very true and authentic to them. And I thought, oh, I didn't think it would get to this. It was just a maternity leave project, and I was writing a book. Like, I didn't think about, do I need to go to a publisher? That I have a job and I have a baby. I don't need to change career and change my entire life. This is just a project.
Yeah.
It's not, but it's now life.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it went.
Tell me about your second book, this one, Sophie Says It's Okay Not to Be Okay.
Yeah. This one came about after a really kind of tragic incident that happened. So the whole idea and premise of the books came about with my sister Rebecca, and she said to me, Esther, why don't you write the book and I'll do the illustrations? She's a phenomenal artist. You should just pick up a pen and write and draw even, and it was I have no creative ability. I mean, I literally couldn't if I tried. It's like a stick.
Yeah.
But the stuff that she would bring to life is phenomenal. But soon after, she went into hospital diagnosed with bipolar, and was in hospital for months and months in a really, really bad place. And she said to me, look, I don't think I can do the illustrations, so please find somebody else. And it was a really nice process that I could take the illustrations to her while she was in hospital, and she could see it all happen. Tragically, last year she decided that she couldn't carry on anymore, and so she ended her life, and we lost her at the age of 28. So in the, thank you, in the 2 nights after she passed away, I couldn't sleep. It was all surreal, and I didn't know what was going on, and it was all intense. And this was kind of the book that I wrote in those 2 nights after, to kind of give her a legacy. You know, all the conversations around what she felt, what she wished she would have known when she was a young girl, what she wished other children now know growing up. It's okay not to be okay, what a good friend looks like, what a supportive network is, that it's okay to be sad, okay to feel down, and that's really what it is. And the biggest thing for me with this was when she passed away, we had to send out an email to everybody. I mean, you never think that's what you're going to have to do, but there's so many people. We are in lockdown, and we weren't in lockdown yet, but it was getting there. And we pressed send on the email, and we had a few family friends in the house, and it just went pitch black outside. It was very eerie, and then suddenly this rainbow came out, and me and my dad just both. I don't remember this, but a lot of our family friends do. But I was just up against the window and said, "Wow, she's safe." Yeah. And then we went into lockdown, and
there were rainbows everywhere.
There were rainbows everywhere.
Yeah.
And the only thing I was allowed to do was go outside with my son for an hour every day, and we would play Spot the Rainbow. Yeah. And it was like Rebecca was with us, and so I really wanted that to be a feature in the book. That I didn't want to write this whole thing in the front of the book around what happened to her, because parents would be like, how do I explain that to my child? But there's a rainbow in every single book, and it will be in every single house, and that for me is just kind of her legacy living on.
Absolutely, and I've read so much about you and about Rebecca, and it's also, like you were talking about diversity, sort of not waiting too late, but she was diagnosed quite late, wasn't she? You found a brilliant person who said, no, hold on a minute, this is what's going on. Yeah. And this is now for kids to go, I feel a bit scratchy, or I feel a bit funny, and we don't say that, not to the little ones, do we? No, and
exactly, and I think that was a whole part of what happened. It took us so long to get this diagnosis. I'm now doing a huge amount of mental health advocacy. I'm an ambassador for Bipolar UK, like really speaking out. We saw for years and years the overwhelming nature of the NHS and what's going on, and how she couldn't get the help, not from the people were phenomenal, but the institutionalized system of what happens, and how it's just a kind of what I call like a plaster approach rather than a stitch approach. And eventually leads to 6-7 years of torture within you. It's a lot. So yeah, I mean, even throughout everything she was going through, she still managed to qualify as a doctor. So just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So you had lockdown, you had the rainbows, and then every Thursday you had everyone clapping for the NHS. And it was a real therapy moment for me those Thursdays. I'd stand at our window and I would bawl my eyes out of. I know that everyone was clapping for the NHS doctors, but in my mind, everyone was clapping for Rebecca.
We were as well.
Thank you.
Just so you know, across the UK, Rebecca was also in our heads.
Thank you.
How have people reacted to the book? Because it's also, I imagine, not quite your baby, but you're also going, I did this, what do you think?
Yes.
And how have children, how have educators, how have they responded to your book so far?
Overwhelmingly positive. I was nervous to put this one out because it is so personal. I almost didn't want someone to be like, oh, it's rubbish. It would have hurt. But educational psychiatrists are saying they're using it in their sessions with kids. Teachers are using it. So many teachers across the UK have got it in their classrooms, sending me pictures, and they're doing lesson plans afterwards, and the kids are sending me notes about that it's okay to feel safe. And just the most overwhelming sense of positivity from parents who've also been through grief, who said they needed this book when they were younger, and they've actually enjoyed reading the book. Because I don't know if you remember, but when you read these books to your children, not these ones specifically, but children's books, sometimes they get a bit monotonous. Oh, do we really need to read this one again?
Yeah.
So many parents are like, this is a breath of fresh air. I actually enjoy reading this book rather than this dog
and
went to the
also, I
park.
feel like it will percolate. So even if your child's quite little, you can go, oh, okay. And even if they're feeling all right, if they can see a friend who's just a bit sad that day, because also there are these lovely workbooks, which I love, which is, what colour do you feel, or what colour do you feel, I think, when you feel sad, or, you know, they can fill things in, and the message is you need friends who have got your back, and so it's subtle. I don't want anyone watching going, hold on a minute, this feels heavy. It's not heavy.
That's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a proactive, fun way, and that's why Bunny features so heavily in the books, and Bunny's hiding, so that when I go and read to schools, you know, with the younger kids, we look for Bunny, and then at the end they say, oh, we learn it's okay not to be okay and we love Bunny. Great, that's what I want.
Fine.
Because Bunny is what a friend should be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're hidden, sometimes they're at the front and centre, but they're always, always there. And that subliminal message is going in for those kids, and it just makes it fun. You don't mention mental health, you don't mention anything scary, it's all there. And we did some research that parents, of over 1,000 parents in the UK, of which over 80% of them are worried about their child's mental health, but only a third of them actually have anything in their home to talk about it, because they're so scared about making the conversation worse. So it's like, use this as a script. You don't have to say anything.
Get in that way and go, do you ever feel a bit grumpy or bad-tempered, or, you know, was one of your friends a bit sad, or because they're grumpy, or whatever?
Yeah, like my son said to me, Mommy, I'm sad like Jamie. It's like, great, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Jamie throughout the book goes on this journey to find his safe space to be able to talk, and it's all about these safe spaces. It's like, find that safe space with your child to talk, so they know that this is a place that's okay for them. We have this yellow armchair at home, and Asha says to me, Mummy, I'm sad, let's go and talk on the yellow chair.
Yeah.
You know, if we can get young kids doing that, I didn't do that when I was a kid, I don't know if you did, but like, how amazing, we could build this resilience in our younger generation, which they need so much more than any other generation with everything that's going on.
Absolutely, but they just need permission.
Yeah.
That's what it gives you, permission.
Yeah.
I feel a bit rubbish today, and you can discuss why.
And that's okay.
Yeah. The Duke and the Duchess of Sussex, I believe, are fans, and you went and chatted with them.
I did, yes.
I love that. How was it? What did you wear?
It was so surreal because I wasn't allowed to tell anyone.
Yeah.
So I'm trying on outfits at home, and my husband's like, you don't get dressed up for work, what's going on? You go in your leggings, and you know, everyone always says, Esther, you're a bit underdressed for work. I don't normally.
You've had your hair fully done, you're wearing a crown.
Yeah,
you're like, what, babe?
Yeah, literally. It's like, I'm full face of makeup going into work, standing. So very weird because I couldn't tell anyone. So it just felt like, oh, I'm on my way to work, off I go. And no, then I walk into Buckingham Palace. Very, very strange, very, very different. And we're all getting ready before they come in, and we're supposed to wear these badges with our names on, and my friend says to me, oh, can you help me put mine on? I was like, oh yeah, sure, of course I can. And I'm like, no, I can't. And it's like safety pin. I was like, I'm actually going to hurt you if I do. So the adrenaline was real, but they came in and they just put everyone at calm. It was 6 of us with them. It was a very just nice flowing conversation, very authentic, very real. Gave them at the time there was only I Can, I Will, so I gave them a copy for Archie, and they said they loved it, they can take it and read it to him. And we had a really nice conversation, and then it was 4 weeks after Rebecca passed away. So it was incredibly bittersweet, because she would have been, I got home and cried a lot, because I was like, she was the one that I would have come home to say.
Of course, she was your cheerleader.
Yeah, and this was our thing together. So while we were there, it was amazing, and talking about mental health and all of that, and now everything that's come to life with the suicidal thoughts and everything from Meghan. So it was a real kind of merging of moments. I spoke to Harry about grief and how I found writing really therapeutic, and he said the same. You know, there was a very, I say personal connection. I felt a personal connection. It was lovely. They said, we'd love to work with you and whatever, but, you know, how does one do such thing? I mean...
Go to LA.
Well, yeah, who knows? But really lovely, really authentic, kind, and yeah, considering it was a maternity leave project at the time, it was then oh, here I am, sat in Buckingham Palace. This is quite surreal. And then I couldn't tell anybody afterwards either, because you had to wait for the press.
So you would go home?
Yeah. I went back into work.
You go back and everyone's like, hey, you're a bit late. Or did you go for a meeting?
I said I had an appointment, came back in, sat in meetings, absolutely fine, took off makeup a bit so I didn't look, because
Yeah.
everyone would be like, where have you been? Because it's not
Were you
you.
wearing a cape, a regal cape? Just like, just leave that by the door.
Yeah. My crown.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, 3 days later, I was like, oh, now it's coming out in the press. I should probably tell friends.
Yeah.
I went for dinner with a friend that night. Like, how was your day? I was like, yeah, it was fine. It was casual.
The usual. It was just a
It's
Wednesday.
standard Wednesday, going to Buckingham Palace, meeting Harry and Meghan. But yeah, it was quite a moment. And everything went a bit crazy after that. And then we literally went into lockdown 2 days later. So it was also bittersweet, because I was about to get so much attention to talk about it. And then it was like, COVID, what is that? Oh my gosh, that's way more exciting, because it is, than this. So yeah.
We should just talk about the narrative of the story, because anybody who's watching who isn't holding one and is thinking, I would like to order one and raise money for charity. Tell us about these friends.
Yeah. So the book is about Jamie. Jamie is a boy, and I really wanted to use him and address the toxic masculinity issue. And he's feeling really sad. And his friends Jordan and Sophie take him on a journey to find his safe place where he feels safe, that he can talk. And throughout that, they learn lessons from them, and also Meghan, the older sister.
Yeah.
That's where Meghan comes in. So they go to the zoo, or they go to the fun fair, or they go at home eating treats. Like, everybody has their own safe place, and that's what we're trying to kind of put out as a message. Ultimately, you need your child to feel safe in order to talk about their feelings, to tell you how they're feeling, and then you can work things out. So it's their journey through finding all of these different fun things, and that's why we try to make it fun. So there's pictures of animals, and there's the fun fair. Not one mention of mental health or anything sad, but it tells them that it's okay.
The story in this book is so beautiful, because it is about finding a safe place to talk, and when you just feel, all right, now I can speak. And it's also teaching kids and grown-ups not to be dismissive of, I want to say, scratchy feelings or bad feelings. Yeah. Do we not discuss it enough?
Yeah, I'm finding that when I'm talking to a lot of parents. They're saying, well, I want my child to know that I'm happy. And that's the whole thing. I'm talking to psychiatrists and educational psychologists. If we are always showing our children that we're always happy, we're not giving them the platform to say, I don't feel happy. Yeah. But a lot of parents are so scared to show them that I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling lonely or down. But we need to work with parents and teachers to be able to let kids know that, because then it gives them that outlet to say, okay, so Mommy's feeling sad today. Mommy, I'm also feeling sad. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, that also, there has to be, I mean, it's such a cliche, there has to be light and shade. There have to be good days and bad days. If every day is brilliant, they know when you're lying. Yeah. I mean, they know a million times, I'm not tired, come on. I want to go to the park. I don't want to go to the park. I want to go back to bed. This campaign about getting these books into schools, why is that so important to you?
Yeah, it's twofold. I think for me, it's a legacy for Rebecca, but it is very much my passion now that I will live and breathe until I'm allowed to, that I want our entire next generation to be able to build this resilience, to be able to talk about their feelings, to understand their feelings. Because I don't think I understood my feelings until I was 20s, 30s plus, you know, like I just want them to understand that from a really young age, so that they can build that with them, so they can take through these mantras of it's okay not to be okay, I can, I will. When things are down, when things are sad, that's okay, and they can build themselves up again. And that's exactly what I want these books to do.
It's quite difficult to understand your feelings. I mean, I'm 49, I've got no idea. But you're also, I imagine, telling them, you might not understand your feelings, that is also okay.
Yes.
You might not understand why you're feeling like this. I mean, we can unpick it, and I bet we could find it, like you and I probably do with girlfriends all the time.
Yeah. All the time.
All the time. It's my favourite. My girlfriends know me better than me. I'm like, why do I feel all weird? And they'll be like, well, Claude. Oh, okay, thank you so much. And I do the same for them. So this is also saying that to kids, isn't it? You might not be able to put your finger on it.
Yeah, there's a line in the book where Jamie says, I don't really know how to describe how I feel, as I can't work it, what's in my head or what's real. Yeah. And it's exactly that. It's like, why am I feeling this? I don't really understand it. But if we can start to get our children, I think a lot of children know happy or sad, but if we can get children to understand angry or scared or fearful, those kind of things as they're coming in, it's like, well, maybe I'm not sad, I'm anxious about this kind of thing, or I'm scared. And then it opens up a whole different level of conversation that someone could have with their parent that could then, if it needs to get to a medical professional, be able to kind of signpost what help is needed rather than I'm sad. There's a lot that comes with sad.
But I also think sometimes it's not sad, sometimes it's just being fed up.
Yeah.
My son was fed up today. Didn't really fancy school. He doesn't love swimming, unless the swimming teacher is watching, in which case they are his favourite classes. But that's also okay, and we discussed it. We discussed whether your glass is half full or half empty, or where's the level today, or is it just on the floor?
And like we said before, like, it's okay to have a bad day.
Yeah.
It's okay to have many bad days. Like, a lot of people are doing that, especially at the moment. But just letting them know that that's okay.
Tell me about the impact this has had on your family, because I don't know enough, but I imagine you will for the rest of your life, you will be grieving.
Yeah.
But they must also be incredibly proud that this is out there in the world.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else has ever gone through any grief. This kind of grief is very different now that we're in COVID. My grief counsellor was saying to me, is like, this is, I mean, we've heard the word a million times, but unprecedented. Like, how do we grieve when we can't grieve? Yeah. So I think this has helped my entire family grieve. It's a really nice way to talk about what's happened. We don't have to go into all the details with friends about, you know, everything with the suicide, and you have the police report and all the details and then the investigations and the pure hell that as a family we've been through in the past year. This is a ray of light, a ray of rainbow for us to say, this is where we can channel Rebecca and channel everything that's happened and make a positive impact. So yeah, my parents said they're really proud and they love talking about it, and I think it's great therapy for all of us to be able to talk about this with a lot of different people. We have our people that we can talk and we can cry with, but from a general sense, it means that she's always with us.
Yes. Also very good for your son, because he has been in lockdown with a mum who's been unbelievably sad. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but this might
helps.
explain a few things.
I say to him, Mummy's sad. And he says, Mummy, let's go and talk on the yellow chair, like for Mummy.
Yeah.
You know, and I want him to understand that. And he says, Mummy, I'm sad like Jamie, or maybe you're sad like Jamie. And then at the end of the conversation, Mummy, are you happy now? You know, like, it's 2.5, but I mean, we've worked on it a lot throughout lockdown, and I think it's so important. I mean, how can I talk about this publicly if I'm not doing it at home? But it's really important for me that he understands that, and that other kids do as well. And that's why this book, and also the activity book, at the bottom of each page, it's got things for parents to say. So even if you're scared, don't worry, just recite literally what's at the bottom of the page. You know, we've been through it with educational psychiatrists and everything. It's all there for you. Don't have to be worried. This is your toolkit to navigate some of the tricky conversations.
Do you have a mentor? Because you are totally together. You're young, you're a brand new mum, you have done this. Who do you turn to go, I was thinking of doing this, or what about X?
I've been super, super lucky in my job to meet some amazing people, and who was the CEO, now the ex-CEO of Unilever, has always kind of been, like, he's always kind of had my back. Yeah. He helped me with a charity that I set up around domestic violence and abuse, and he's always kind of spoken to me around, you know, you can do this. It's okay. Anytime I've had any form of like imposter syndrome of like, no, like, no, you can. Yeah. And then I found my place. I'm quite an introvert. I don't like the small chat, but if someone says to me, how are you going to change the world? That's my kind of conversation.
Yeah, sit down, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm yours.
Yeah.
So finding these networks like One Young World and the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, where there's other people like that, that's where I kind of find myself. And so the CEO of One Young World, David Jones, has also been always there, kind of helping me along. Anytime I need a phone call, just call up and whatever. So for me, mentorship has been the absolute, that it's just been amazing, especially now that I'm not working at my corporate role and I don't have this fancy title anymore. You kind of feel like, I'm a mum and I don't have a title and I've kind of lost everything. Yeah, I feel more at peace than I ever have done, but I don't have this fancy title anymore, so what do I do? And they're really helping with that. So for me, I wouldn't have got anywhere without mentors and a wonderful life coach who just like shouts at me.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about your own well-being and when in life talking has really helped you, but it sounds like you've got excellent people, with your parents, your husband, who I still can't believe you didn't tell me you were going to Buckingham Palace, a life coach, and you know, you have a grief counsellor, but when is it really you've gone, yes, this has been amazing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people sometimes have a stigma around therapy, but I will be the first person to hold my hand up and be like, I absolutely love it. It's the only reason why I've got to where I've got to and got through some of the hard things in my life. I think everyone should have it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, great outlet, and helps you, fit with your emotions. But for me, I think it was post having Asher.
Yes.
So I had incredibly tough labour. I got sepsis.
Oh,
We were both not great. His heart rate was dropping. There were alarms. It was not fun.
Yeah. Trauma.
Yes, very much so. In hospital for days after him, ICU, all this kind of stuff. Definitely not as bad as some people have it, but for me, I was like told throughout my pregnancy, you're fine, you're low risk, you'll be in the birth centre, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about surgery, and it was alarms and surgeries and everything. And then you come home and you're like, what do I do?
Yes.
And then you've got everybody coming in, it's the first grandchild, everyone wants to see them. And you're like, yes, sure, I'll cook, I'll set everything up. And
lasagna, did everyone say lasagna? Okay,
yes, sure, I'll do it, no problem.
Stitches,
everything,
leaking.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember we went to my in-laws and they were like, are you coming through for dinner? And Adam came in and was like, are you okay? And I'm like, what's going on? And it was like leaking everywhere. I was like, what do I do? I'm so confused. This has never happened. No one tells you about this stuff. And just for me, speaking about that with my girlfriends and now speaking about it more publicly around motherhood and what comes with that, and the days where you've had no sleep but you're still required to get up and move and show face, that again, similar with maternal mental well-being, like it's okay not to be okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, like this is...
Do you know, I went, there were at the NCT classes and my eldest
best
is now
£200
18.
I've ever spent for friends.
She was amazing, but her only rule, she was like, labour will go either way, don't have a plan. I mean, fingers crossed it goes your way, don't worry about it. She said, your only rule is for the first 4 weeks of that baby's life, you don't get dressed. You're in a night dress.
Amazing.
And we were all like, what? I was like, but I'd like to go for a walk and, I have to show my baby Titian. I mean, I was an idiot. I was young. And
I did the same.
Yeah. I was like, we've got to get on the tube and I've got to show my baby London. I'm obsessed by the tube and London. But that was, if anybody's watching, I know that we've gone slightly off topic. But she said, because then you're a patient.
Yeah.
So people who will come round, you don't ask a woman who's wearing a night dress, who's covered in muslins and blah, blah, blah for a cup of tea. You just don't.
Yeah.
You do if they're already they're back in their pregnancy dungarees going, hi, you hold them.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And everyone forgets about you.
Yeah.
I found the whole, we're talking about well-being, everything, the whole pregnancy, everyone was like, especially because I'm really small and my bump was really, really big. So my blood pressure went down. I couldn't see my toes. I was tripping everywhere, fainting everywhere. The Tesco people knew me because they were like, oh, she's coming in, she's going to faint.
Yeah. Follow her around with a mattress.
Yeah, literally. It was just, and then suddenly you have the baby and it's like everyone wants a baby, no one wants you, and you're hidden, but you're also feeling awful. And so for me, that was definitely a time where it was like, we need to talk about this, and talking really helped.
That's so fantastic. And if you find somebody wonderful, and there are so many wonderful people, it unlocks something immediately. Yeah. Tell me, how has you and everybody you know, how have they done mental health-wise, if you like, during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been interesting to see some of my friends that I didn't think would be as bad really get bad, and others that I thought would be okay really get quite anxious.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of turned everything on its head.
Yeah.
But for me, and again, this is kind of what my grief counselor and my life coach always says, like we try and find the positives in dark things of people are asking people if they're okay, and they're actually meaning it.
Yes.
They're looking them in the eye, they're asking them, and then people are saying, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, it's okay that you're not, because we've got this thing going on. And I really hope once we get back to some form of normality, that still carries on. For me, that has been absolutely game-changing and amazing to see, especially because I was going through all of this stuff with mental illness and mental well-being with Rebecca for a while and really talking about it. And now it feels so much more real that everybody else is talking about it as well.
When Rebecca was unwell, what did you still feel there was a stigma? Or were you and her and your family, could you be open about what she was going through? I'm just interested in whether you've seen a change. Like you say, during the pandemic, people are going, but you're all right. We know that we have to check in on people. You haven't spoken to a friend for 2 days, just check in on them because they might not have spoken to anybody else. Have you seen the change?
So my friends knew what was going on because Rebecca was in hospital for 4 or 5 months at a time, so it was in a very intense period of life. You'd go and see her, and depending on how she felt, you could be there for 10 minutes, or you could be there for 5 hours. So, you know, there were points where I was supposed to be going for dinner with a friend and I couldn't even message to say I'm not coming. So they all understood and they all knew what was going on, and I spoke about it very openly because this is me. I've had the most horrible day because I've had to be put in a safe room with my sister who's, because somebody else on the ward has managed to get into the kitchen to get a knife, and you know, and then they put me in a safe room with my sister, and she's telling me all of her dark thoughts, and that was 5 hours, and now I'm in my car crying, got an hour journey home, and now I need to go back to work. You know, I had to offload that somewhere. I couldn't keep that in.
way.
So everybody knew. So we were of course all shocked when it happened, but it wasn't. I had to go and retell my friends, by the way, this has been going on for 5 years.
No, of course.
It was very much like, okay, we understand everything that you've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about book 3, because there's that must be thrilling. And we should just mention the first one is brilliant. It's about
thank you.
that women can do anything, girls can do anything, and it's quietly there. So any little girl go, oh yes. And I love then in the book you can go, what do you want to be? What do you fancy?
And that's what I want. You know, I've been reading to a lot of kids. We did a campaign in the first lockdown to get these books into schools in the UK that had the most amount of free school meal children and also key worker children, and was delivering them all and doing kind of online sessions with the kids. And some of these kids, what they want to be, because they've never been told anything, you know, fine if that's what you want to be, but let's let you think and let's you aspire. Just because you may live in a certain way or be a certain person doesn't mean that you can't be X, Y, and Z. So for me, that's super important. But next book, Sophie says, be proud of who you are.
Oh,
so
nice.
Very much a kind of self-confidence, self-esteem, not only about how you look, but also be proud of who you are on the inside, so be a good person as well. So the kind of be kind kind of thing that comes out. So we introduce 2 more characters. They go on a really fun journey to the seaside, and we kind of link the variety of fish and sea animals to the variety of people that you will meet in your life, and be proud of all of them, because together it makes a wonderful society. So that's super exciting.
And how close are you for
it's written, we're in the illustration phase. It should be out around November this year.
And is your head just full of, in an effort to help children discuss their mental health without calling it mental health, do you have 900 ideas? Do you get home tonight and go, oh, I've thought of another one to your husband? Do you have lots?
I have lots, and then the amount of people that say to me, please can you write on this, please can you write on that, we need something on this, we need something on that. There's so many, and it's about, because what I want it to be is a series whereby if children only remember one thing from their childhood, it's these mantras. So it's okay not to be okay. I can, I will. Be proud of who you are. Because, you know, children get told a lot of things, but if you can remember these 5, maybe 10, let's see how many I do, things that will kind of build you through your childhood and take into adulthood. I wish I knew this stuff when I was younger. I think I would have been a much more resilient adult as a result. And if we can do that, then great. But yes, I mean, ideas everywhere. I've got like Post-its. I have a book by my bed, so anytime I wake up in the night, which is multiple times, because I'm like, oh, thinking, and just write them down, and I wake up in the morning and was like, oh, that's what I was thinking during the night.
Also very helpful that you have a 2.5-year-old, so you can just sort of look at him, see him in nursery and go, why have nobody mentioned
this?
X? Tell me about this campaign. We're here today because, and people can click on the link to get more involved. I'll do that at the end. I'll make a hoo-ha about it. But why is this campaign important?
I mean, it's super important. I'm so kind of honoured that a charity would come to me and say, we'd love to get your book into schools all over. Ort UK are an amazing charity that help kids learn things that aren't necessarily what you learn in the classroom. And for me, that's super important. So yes, kids are learning English and maths, but can they learn things like resilience and feelings and positivity and body positivity? So the fact that Ort is getting behind that is absolutely amazing, and I just feel really honoured that they've asked me and are helping me get the message out everywhere I can.
So Ort are hoping to get enough money to send 7,000 books worldwide and here, and that must be thrilling.
It's amazing, from a struggling mum in the middle of the night writing a book here to the fact that a world kind of big organisation, charity like Ort has come to me saying we'd like to get your book somewhere. I mean, you can't ask for more, really, I don't think.
Thank you so much for talking to me, Esther. You're brilliant. Your books are excellent.
Thank you.
And I should just say, anybody that's watching that's go, oh yeah, I want one of those books, or I want to get involved and help this magnificent charity, the link is there. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to do a bow.
Thank you.
Esther, thank you very much for sharing your story with us with such candidness and honesty. And Claudia, thank you so much for your time this evening and for helping us to learn about the painful journey that led Esther to write, Sophie Says It's Okay Not to Be Okay. My name is Annette Cura and I am the chair of Ort UK. I am so proud to be at the helm of this brilliant organisation because I'm passionate about supporting our children and grandchildren to be true to themselves and to fulfil their potential. This campaign totally resonates with me because I believe we can all take more time to really listen to each other without judgment and in a caring and supportive manner. If you have been moved, inspired, or simply want to help Ort UK reach its goal of educating children about the importance of looking after their mental well-being, please visit ortuk.org/books so that we can reach our target of gifting 7,000 copies of Esther's book across the world. Alternatively, to donate via text message, text 8ORT to donate £8 or 16ORT to donate £16 to 70085. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the rest of your evening.